is Audrey ASMR Relaxation with you today, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a story time. These are almost my favorite types of videos, not in terms of triggers but in terms of topics, because I think I especially appreciate the fact that there's a lot of whisper and mouth sounds usually, but also because it's similar to a ramble, but it has the extra advantage of having a story, a direction, which I enjoy. I'm at my parents' house, and so you might hear the dog or the queen, as I refer to her. Don't touch me. And otherwise, yeah, I'm just trying to figure this camera thing. Okay. And otherwise, to help me with just like having a bit of mouth sounds and making it more interesting, at some point I will start eating some Mike and Nike. Actually, I'll start by eating some Mike and Nike candies. So I'll show them to you, and then I'll start the story time, and I'll try to remember to put in the description box. I don't know how to use timestamps, so I won't do that. But I will try to remember to include in the description box when I start the story time and when I stop eating the candies, so maybe you can skip ahead or, use this video to your liking. So, the Mike and Nike that I chose those are the Berry Blast or Explosion de Baie. And I opened it already because it makes a bit of noise, but I wanted to show you the flavors that we have, if it will focus. Okay, so we have in purple wild berry or baie sauvage. In turquoise we have what do we have? We have blue raspberry, which is framboise bleue in French. Then we have strawberry, fraise. We have blueberry, bleuet. And we have peach berry, beige. So I'll go ahead and pour myself some on the side. Hopefully, I didn't think of doing that ahead. Hopefully that won't be too loud either. Okay, I'm all set. Alright guys, so today I will be telling you the story of when I thought my boyfriend was dead. Strawberry, I think. So, this happened somewhat recently, like maybe 3 months ago. And basically, it was Friday night, or actually Friday, like around noon. I texted him to ask him something. Can't remember what. Not so important. Or to tell him about something that happened during my day. Something along those lines, the type of text that you kind of expect an answer. And he didn't answer, which is fine because we're not huge texters necessarily during the day. Like, we will mostly text each other during the day if we have something to deal with or to answer, a question. But we're not big texters. We update each other when we come home. So I didn't think much of it. Another strawberry, I think. So, well then, I was headed to my parents because I was working on a project for which I use their computer because it's better than mine. So I was headed there, and this looks like it's blueberry. So I was there working on this project, and at some point I realized that I'm probably not going to be done in time to make it home for supper. And so my mom's working from home that day, and she's like, why don't you tell him to come over for supper and we can eat here? So I'm like, you know what, good idea. This looks like a wild berry. So I'm like, yeah, good point, Mom. Let's do that. So I tell him so. And I ask him if he wants to come over with my parents for supper. Which is, we do that quite regularly. It wouldn't be like a big change of routine. We do that about once a week, going at my parents just for supper. I think it's around 4:30. He doesn't answer. That's fine. Then it's like 5:30. And so, because we're approaching supper time, and I know that he usually leaves work around 5, I text him again. And I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, did you get my text? Are you coming to my parents? I'm gonna be there. And also, this is just out of respect, because one thing that I personally dislike, or that irritates me, is like if I expect you to come around at a certain hour and we're gonna have supper together or whatnot, and you just don't show up. It's just a bit rude, especially on a Friday night, because it's like I could be making plans with friends, or I could be doing I don't know what. In that case, I was mostly doing my project, but personally that irritates me, and so I was trying to be nice about it so that if he so that he wouldn't expect me at home and me not showing up, So yeah, no answer. So I texted him around 5:30, and I'm working on my project. Then my mom's like, so around like 6:30, she's like, so is he coming or not? Like, do we do something for him? Or I'm like, he hasn't answered. That's weird. So at around 7, I send him another text, or I call him. He doesn't answer. And at this point, I'm starting to be mad at him, because I'm like, just fucking pick up the phone, And I've been texting you and calling you. I think that was the second time I was calling. So I was like, just pick it up, man. Not complicated, So, no answer. I'm like, okay. Okay. 7:30 or 8. I call again. No answer. Now I'm really starting to get like proper irritated. And so I just keep on working on my project. My parents are like, starting to ask me questions. Like, they're nervous. I'm not yet nervous, but I'm like mad at him almost. Because I'm thinking, like, this is freaking disrespectful. Just pick it up. So, we eat. Like, it wasn't a big deal. We weren't making a huge supper. It's mostly for the fact of eating together and less about what we're eating, usually in those kind of instances, improvised suppers. So, we eat. I'm still working on my project, no big deal. I call him at 9 p.m. and like, the last news I have of him is at 11 a.m. And so, I call him at 9 and his cell phone's dead. Now, I'm mad. Because I'm thinking, you know what? He doesn't know that I'm here. And so, he's not considerate of the fact that I could be waiting for him at home. This is like all going in my head. I'm like, he doesn't know that I'm here, so he thinks I'm at home. It's like, I don't know how it is in your relationship, but if we're a weekend night and we haven't said to each other that we have other plans, like, I'm expecting you to be home. That's the routine anyway that we have. So I'm like, you're not even considerate of the fact that I could be waiting at home, wondering where the heck you are, waiting for you for supper or like for plans or whatnot. And then his cell phone said, okay. My parents keep asking questions, and then the questions get to questions like, are you guys alright? Are you guys fighting? You know, do you have any idea where he might be? I'm like, what are you? Mom, Dad, what are you trying to suggest? Like, we haven't been fighting. Everything's good. I think maybe they were wondering because maybe 2 years ago, we had a rough patch. So, they were wondering, probably. But I was like, no, we haven't been fighting. Things have been actually great. I wouldn't worry too much. But I'm irritated. They're like, okay. And then the thing is, they don't stop. So they keep on asking questions. And I'm already irritated. I have to manage myself. And now I have to manage my parents too. Which I don't like. And so, around 10, I call again. Cell phone's still dead. And so I tell, because my parents have been asking questions. So at some point I kind of shut them up by telling them, like, can you stop, please? I'm gonna stop eating candies now. So I'm like, can you stop, please, asking questions that I don't have the answer for? I'm starting to be anxious, and that's enough for me to manage, you know? So, so then, it's about 10 o'clock. 10:30, I'm outraged, but I'm also starting to be wondering, like, what the fuck? Because this is quite unusual. This was the first time that I hadn't had any news for almost 12 hours straight, especially on a Friday night, after I've been texting and calling. So I was starting to worry myself. And so at 10:30, I call him. At around 10, I started texting his friends and asked him, like, he has like 4 close friends. So I texted them, like, hey, have you heard about him? Like, I haven't had an answer from him since that hour. It's unusual. I was expecting him at home. You know, I don't know what's going on. And all of his friends were like, no, I haven't heard from him like since yesterday. Is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just starting to wonder, you know? So it stays like this. And then I'm like, I'm starting to consider what are the possibilities, right? So I'm thinking one of the possibilities is that he's at home and hasn't plugged his cell phone and it's just not answering. And also, like, one of his friends starting to look worried. So I was like, okay, this is not making me calmer. So I call my friend who's my neighbor. And I'm like, I explained to her the situation. And I asked her if she could go at my house and check if he's in here. Because I'm not done with my project. I'm wrapping up, but I'm starting to be anxious. I'm anxious. Let's face it, I was anxious at that point. So I send her, and she texts us back, and she's like, hey, Audrey, like, the door's locked. It's pitch black inside, and his car is in the driveway. So I'm like, okay, the motherfucker didn't make it home. So why the heck hasn't he notified me that he was not going to be home? I hope you like rambles, because I think this is going to be half an hour. But yeah, so he didn't make it home. So I'm like, okay. So I'm starting to, I thought about the fact, I texted his sister, and his sister all are wondering where he is. None of them know. He has 3 sisters. So then I'm like, okay, what the heck? So I find her on Facebook and I message her. He has a friend, a colleague who he works with and with whom he was having lunch on that day. So I text her, messenger her, and I'm like, hey, I explained to her the situation briefly. I'm like, I'm just curious. I think you're the last person that I know who has seen him. Like, do you have any idea where he might be? And she's like, hey, and then she sounds worried, which I'm like, what the fuck? Where is that guy? She's like, hey, no, we've had lunch, but like he was saying how he would be watching Game of Thrones tonight. It's really unusual for him not to be home. Is it unusual for him not to be home? You know. I was like, yeah, unusual. She's like, is he doing okay? Was he doing fine? Like, did he seem depressed? I was like, no. Can you not go there? So I was like, no, everything was fine. She's like, I don't know. I know he was having a beer with the colleagues at this pub where, like, right down where he works, but that usually is a 5 to 7, like a cocktail hour. And I'm like, okay, that's useful, but then again, like, he usually goes there and leaves as soon as it's time, like, as possible, and it would be so unusual for him to stay there, first of all, with colleagues, but even more so, like, until that time. It's 11 by now, so I'm like, that's unusual, you know. She's like, yeah, I don't see him do that, and, like, both of us are a bit like, what the hell? She says, like, let me know if I can help. So I say, well, if you have his coworkers' phones, that would be helpful. She's like, okay, I'll look if I can find anything. She's like, I don't have his colleague's phone, but I have his boss's phone, which usually goes to these things. And I'm like, I'm considering it, but I'm thinking, if it's nothing, and I called his boss, he will crucify me. So I'm like, you know what, I'll wait just a bit, but thanks. I head home. I'm on a 3-way FaceTime with his sisters. All of them are freaking out. One of them is like right near my house. He's like, I'm coming over. One of them is like, try to get into his Gmail, because he doesn't have an iPhone. So he's like, try to get into his Gmails, and see if you can locate the last time that the iPhone was registered as opened. Like, at this point, I'm worried, because this is unlike him. So I'm like, oh my god, what happened? What if he got, like, I don't know, he was attacked on the bus? What if, you know, like, all of this is going through my mind. So I'm like, I don't know. I can't get into his email at all because it's confirming that I need the location for his cell phone by a text to his cell phone. Seriously, Google? You need to up your game. This guy could be dead. So, I'm like, okay. So the sister arrives home and she's like, we're going to that bar. It's 11:30. I'm a grandmother. I go to bed. Like, I'm tired at 11:30. I want to go to bed. Or I want to be in my PJs on my sofa. So I'm almost like so. That's skinny. I'm almost like so. And she's like, we're going to that place. So I'm like, you know what? I have no better plan. And it's 11:30 now, so let's go. So we're going there. She's driving. On the drive, I'm like, you know what? I'm starting to be very worried, so I'm considering all my options here. So I call the hospital. There's 2 hospitals near where I live. So I call and I'm like, hey, I wanted to know. I call the emergency section. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for my partner. I've lost him. This is unusual, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to know if you had anyone in the emergency right now by his name, or if you have any unidentified bodies or persons that have had sometimes when people have an accident, I work at a hospital, so I know. Sometimes when people have an accident, they're brought in the hospitals, but they don't have an identification, and so they're called like Mr. Monday until we find out who that person is. So he would be Mr. Friday. So, and she's like, the first hospital says no, we don't have. I'm like, thank you. Second hospital is like, I'm sorry, ma'am, this is confidential information, and I can't discuss that with you. So I'm like, seriously? I understand though. Like, really, I do understand. But I was like, okay, fuck off. I'm even more worried. So I hang up, and then I call the police. I call the the police in the city that I'm from. So I call and I ask the same. They're like, we don't have anyone that fits that description, but you know, if you're really worried, you could fill a missing persons report. So I'm like, I'm considering it. I'm like, okay, what's the impact of that? Like, if I file a missing person report, does that stay in his file? Let's say I find him tonight or tomorrow. Does that stay in the file if anyone does a police check? And she's like, yes, it does. So I was like, he will again crucify me. He will be so mad if all of this is for nothing and there's a missing person report in his file, and that stops him or gets him questions every time he's trying to get a job. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait a bit. Then we finally pull up to the pub, and then we park like a bit later, and it's like a corner of a street, and I'm running towards that pub, and my heart is in my throat. I'm so nervous because I'm thinking in about 30 seconds I will be either so so anxious and worried because he's not there, and I have now no clue, not even a trail of where the guy might be. But then I was also like anxious because I was like, in 30 seconds I could be so mad at him, so mad. So I'm running. I get in the place, I open the door, and I start scanning, and I spot him in the back of the pub with 2 of his colleagues. So I walk up a bit, and I stand in the middle, and I look at him, and he looks at me, and I can see in his eyes that he's like, this person seems like they're looking at me, but he doesn't have his glasses. So I do a meaning, come on here, I've been looking for you for the past couple hours. I haven't heard from you since 11, so I was starting to worry, and now I found you." And he's like, "Oh, but like you didn't need to worry. I'm just here having drinks with the buddies, like with my colleagues." I wanted to take his head and be like, "Paw, paw, paw." "Yes, I can see that. Thank you." So I said, "Yeah, I can see that. I'm really happy that nothing's gone, like, you're fine, but I was worried. All of your sisters are looking for you, like we're all quite worried." And he's like, "Oh my god, no, like you don't need to worry, guys, I'm just here." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm headed home. Do you want to lift? Like, do you want to ride home?" And the guy looks at me, looks at his colleagues, who are just like looking at us a bit like shocked, like open-mouthed, like and he says, "You know what, I think I'm good. I'm just gonna stay here a while longer, and I'm gonna Uber home." He said he was gonna take an Uber home when I went to pick him up at a pub after I told him that I've been worried sick, and his family has been worried sick about where he is. It's 11:30 on a Friday night. I'm almost in my PJs in this pub, and he says he's gonna Uber home. I have rarely been so unimpressed with my boyfriend. So I kind of nervous laughed. I went like, "I can't believe this is happening." I said, "Oh, okay." So I turned to his colleagues and I'm like, "This is a very awkward way to meet you all, but I'm very pleased to meet you." I shake their hands. And he's like, "You must be Audrey. Like, we've heard good things from you." And I'm like, "Well, thank you." And I said, "You must be this and that." And I said, "Okay, well, have fun, guys." And I left. We went back home. We were again FaceTiming with the sisters. They were all so fucking mad. I was so mad. My heart was like pounding in my chest of like adrenaline. I swear I could have hit the guy on the nose, like on the nose. I didn't do this, but in my dreams I was. So we part ways, and I go to bed, but I can't sleep. I'm so under the rush of adrenaline. I can't sleep. Maybe like 40 minutes later, he comes in, and he's like, he comes in the room, and so I pretend to sleep, and he comes in the room, and he like kneels down beside the bed, and he holds my hand. He takes it like this, and he starts to stroke it, and I'm like, I move it away, and he's like, "Honey, like, we need to talk." I don't answer. He's like, "Please, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm really sorry. Can we talk?" I don't answer. He's like, "Audrey, come on, man. Like, please." And I say, honestly, then I say, I don't move. I just say, "Honestly, the last thing I want to do right now is talk to you. Please leave." He's like, no, I can't go to bed like this. Like, we need to talk about this." I'm like, "No, we don't. Please leave." He's like, "No, I mean it. We need to talk this through." I'm like, "Listen, we really don't. I don't have anything to say to you. You're fucking drunk. There's nothing to discuss." And then he gets insulted. He's like, "I'm not drunk." He reeks of alcohol. He's like, "I'm not drunk." I'm like, "Yes, you are." He starts to get like fussy, like, "Wake up." I say, "Listen, I'm fucking mad at you. I don't care what you do. I don't care." He's like, "I can't sleep." Oh, that's what he says. He says, "Audrey, I'm not gonna be able to sleep if we don't talk this through." I say, "Honestly, I don't fucking care. I'm mad at you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't care what you do. Go fucking read a book, watch Netflix, or jerk off. I don't care. Leave my sight." And I just go back to sleep. And then he stays there like 4 or 5 seconds. Just like this. And leaves. I close the door. was still mad at him. And he was like, Audrey, I swear I sent a text at 5 to let you know I was drinking still, like I was still at the pub. But like it never sent because I closed my cell phone because I was dying. And I'm like, still from 5 to fucking 11:30. Like, didn't you think I was gonna fucking wonder where you were? And he's like, but Audrey, my cell phone was dead. I'm like, I don't care. Pick someone else's cell phone. Everyone has a cell phone and call me. He's like, but honey, I don't know your cell phone number. We've been together 6 years, guys. I'm like, excuse me, what? He's like, I don't know it. I'm like, learn it. Fucking learn it. What if you are actually dying and you need, like, what if you're in an emergency situation and you need to call me and you don't have your cell phone? You need to know your common law partner. You need to know their cell phone. Like, it's important. Anyways, I was so mad. But he was so he felt so bad. He was such a like little teddy bear for the weekend. And eventually on Sunday I got over it, and now we laugh about it. But guys, I was mad. When I told him, I called the hospitals. He could not believe it. He was like, you thought I was dead? I was like, I thought you could be. Like, this has never happened before. Anyways, that's the story of the time I thought my boyfriend was dead. So if you like that type of story time videos, let me know. Comment, what do you think? What would you have done in this situation? I'm curious to know. And yeah, if you like it, give me a thumbs up, or comment or subscribe, you know. And let me know if there are specific stories you would like to hear, like topics that you would like me to cover in story time. I think I'm gonna do this some more. Anyways, have a good night, afternoon, or whatever point you're at in your day.